If you watch to the end of this video, you'll understand how to use Apollo.io and all of its features. I'm going to go into what is Apollo.io, how to use it, targeting companies on and off Apollo, and also how to save tons of money. Because if you've used Apollo.io before, you know it's very expensive, and I have a way to get it 10 times cheaper. So, with that being said, let's just jump into it. So, as you can see, this is Apollo.io. And again, right, as I mentioned, previously, and if you don't already know, Apollo has access to hundreds of millions of contacts. They have access to contacts from CEOs and decision makers of giant companies like Google, Amazon, Microsoft, stuff like that. And they also have, access to companies as far as mom and pop shops, on Apollo, or anyone that can get access, or anyone that Apollo can get access to. Right. So again, right, enough of me talking about how good it is. Let me actually just show you. Now, with Apollo, you're always going to be queued up into the onboarding hub. They're basically just going to show you a bunch of different tasks or steps to do, kind of like a game, to kind of show you how Apollo works and stuff like that. But if you're going to be using it for scraping data and building out lists just through Apollo, we're going to be looking at these top two fields, or filters, if you would call it, right? Now, again, as I said, there's a bunch of different things you could do here. You could see analytics, you could do workflows, you can create emails, you can create sequences, all these different things. But again, the two main filters we're going to be looking at, or fields, if you'd like to call it, is going to be the companies and the people tab. Hey guys, we'll get right back into the video. But if you're looking for a predictable and scalable cold email outbound solution that's going to book you tons of calls into your calendar, well, I have an offer for you. We just helped our client Morty from NBX Now close 30 deals in just 90 days for his event management agency. We also helped Jay book 43 calls in just 72 hours for his e-commerce marketing agency. And we have a lot more great case studies on our website as well if you want to check that out. Now, if you're looking to skip all these steps of worrying about deliverability, email scripts, lead list building, and all the things like that, and just want a done-for-you solution provided to you to incorporate into your company, book in a time down below with my team, and we'll see if we'd be a good fit. And with that being said, I'll see you there. Now, as you can see right here, we have Apollo's access to 30 million companies, and at these companies, there are 217 million people. So you can see, it's almost a quarter billion people we can get access to, with specifically Apollo, which again, is very, very useful for cold email, cold calling, any outreach efforts you'd want, right? Specifically for outbound, obviously. Now, with the companies tab, I'll kind of run you guys through the filters, what we use, what we don't use, stuff like that. So number one, the lists feature. This is pretty self-explanatory. You essentially build lists. Let's say you have a bunch of filters here. You have a bunch of leads you want to save in a list. You could just save it there. We typically don't do that, just because we have a third-party scraping tool that kind of saves the list for us and scrapes it externally, which I'll go into that before. That's kind of like the cheaper option I was mentioning to you guys. But essentially, that's kind of what it is. We don't use it much, but it's there if you want to use it. The company tab, right? This is a very important tab. What we use this most for is going to be importing companies, right? So, for instance, I could put in my company, and I can get I can get Apollo to give me the information of my company. So, okay, my company's called Borks. It has links right here. This is going to be my website, our LinkedIn, how many employees we have, and the industries and keywords we fit under. If I'll go into more about industries and keywords in a little bit. But if you're targeting lead generation companies, which is, my company, what you're going to want to be doing is you're going to want to be, targeting overall marketing advertising companies, which is what we do. But also you're going to want to be typing in other things like, what's a good one? AI lead generation, lead nurturing, engagement optimization, call booking, stuff like that to get access to companies like this. And that's kind of, how Apollo works, right? So again, enough about that. That's kind of, how the companies tab works. Pretty self-explanatory. If you want to get all the information of a specific company, you can just put it here. And if you want to exclude this specific company from any list, you just press that, you press enter, save and search, and it'll exclude it from your list. So again, very self-explanatory. That's how it works. Now, the next thing is going to be account location. So account location, again, is very self-explanatory. You can put in United States. You can go as far as putting in the country or the entire continent. So you could just do North America. Let's see, North America. You could do United Kingdom. You could do a lot of things. You don't have to be, you don't have to be like only state or only country. You can do continent. You could do all that kind of stuff. But you could also do the zip code, right? So if you work within a local market area, just do like 9415. This doesn't work. I'll just quit it. But there you go. So look, there's about 74,000 companies within a 50-mile radius of this zip code. So that's kind of a better explanation for that. Next thing is going to be employee count. Again, this is all very self-explanatory. If I want to target companies between 1 and 100 employees, that's what I would do. I'd select all these. You can be pretty specific as far as like a custom range. You don't have to do like if you want to do specifically, because this only gives you access to 1 to 50, for instance. Let's just say I want to do specifically 7 to 51. You can get very specific with it rather than doing the predefined range. And you could also do by, the number of employees that's unknown. So that's another thing you could do. Next thing is gonna be honestly nothing else really. These are the only tabs we really use. I can kind of go over what these other ones are, but this is like an AI filter. What is this? Use AI to target. This is like their AI feature. You could do if you have like the upgraded plan, you could do like someone's buying intent. But again, a lot of these features aren't going to be very useful just because like Apollo gets access to these companies' information through their LinkedIn and their and their website, stuff like that. And it's very hard for Apollo to get access to a company's revenue just because that's not public data. It could get access, obviously, to a public company and a private company because that information is public. But specifically, like revenue ranges, like under 500,000 a month or whatever, it's not possible. It's a very broad estimate. So what I would do if you want to target based on revenue count, I would do based on employees. That's kind of the best thing. So 1 in 10 employees, it might be 0 to a million a year. Then again, you can kind of go up through this ladder of employee counts as far as revenue range. Now, next thing I want to go into is going to be the people tab. You're going to notice that the filters here are very similar. Only thing that was just added here was the email status and the job title. Email status basically shows which leads Apollo actually has access to. And then with job titles, very self-explanatory. If I want to do, CEO, owner, and kind of all of these different job titles, I can get access. So if I just do those things, we have about 2 million contacts to even work with, right, for that. So that's pretty cool. Now, again, what I'm gonna do, right, since I just went over kind of what is Apollo, how to kind of use it, I'm gonna kind of build out a mock lead list, using Apollo. So let's just say I want to target, HVAC companies or heating and cooling companies, right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of write down my ICP. So if I want to do, let's just say specifically, it's going to be HVAC companies in North America. Okay. I do specifically North America. So we have about 10 million contacts here. As you can see, right, we have Google, Amazon, LinkedIn, giant companies here. What we want to do is we want to exclude those companies by employee count. So we'll just do 1 to 50 a head count. That's pretty good. I want to get small to medium sized heating and cooling companies. Now, what I want to do is with industries and keywords, this is how I'm going to actually get access to specifically the HVAC companies. Now, with industries, just from past experience, I know that most HVAC companies are going to be in the consumer services industry. So if I just do consumer services, I'll do like construction. I know that a lot of them are in construction. That's just under the category that it goes under. And you'll notice if I do consumer services and construction, there's going to be a lot of contacts here that aren't HVAC. These are just generally companies in the construction industry. So this is like a general contracting construction company. If I want to go more defined, I can do heating and cooling, right? Specifically with keywords. I could do HVAC. Let me see. Let's do HVAC. We could do HVAC repair. We could do AC, right? And I can kind of run through all the different examples. This is just going to be a very quick and concise, example that I'm going to go for. But as you can see, right, if I open up a bunch of these websites right here, this is obviously a Char heating and cooling, right? This is obviously a HVAC company. If I go here, this is obviously an HVAC company. Let's see, commercial systems is by a commercial HVAC company. So as you can see, it's very, accurate. And again, the industry that it goes under, and again, I want to stress this a lot and kind of how these work. The industry is the overarching, I guess you can just call it industry that they go under, but the specifics on what the company is going to be in keywords. So as I showed you before, like Borks, for instance, we are a marketing company, right? Obviously, like objectively, we do marketing, but we don't do any form of marketing. We do specifically lead generation. So we are under the umbrella of marketing, but we do specifically lead generation, which is a type of marketing. So that's kind of how the industries and keywords type of things work. Which again does actually get me to my next point. And my next point is that if you look at some of these companies, if I can find some right now, there's going to be some of them that number one aren't going to be accurate, right? Like if I go to, let's just see, Energy One Americas, that's going to be HVAC. Let's see, trust installer. Um, this doesn't seem specific HVAC. Air barrier coatings, spray foam, air barrier roofing. These aren't really HVAC, like specifically helping with systems. And what Apollo lets you do is it lets you exclude words. So this one specifically, energy air, spray foam installation, or insulation, right? We don't want insulation, right? That's not like a word we want. So if I just go and I exclude installation, there you go. Just excluded 1,000 contacts. Now, I know from, again, past experience that even though we have these industries, there's going to be some that are just going to be in not the right industry. Like, for instance, there's going to be, we just got rid of 500 software companies, or companies that have the tag software. If you're a HVAC company, there's no reason you would have the keyword software. So that's kind of why I'm doing that. Um, we have SaaS. I know there's going to be a lot of like HVAC marketing companies, which again does not apply to our ICP, advertising, and I can kind of go through and exclude as much as I want. Again, another big one is going to be staffing. There's going to be a lot of like HVAC staffing companies here. And again, I can just kind of narrow down, and Apollo gives you access to all the pages. So you can kind of just keep going and say, okay, is this person HVAC company, commercial HVAC? Perfect. And you can kind of, chip away at the data to make sure it's as accurate as you can, as you want. Now, again, with specific, with Apollo, sometimes, if I can find it, there's not going to be like this, for instance, right? This is a perfect example. This specific company, although it came up, right? There's no like keywords here, right? Like there's no like HVAC installation. I don't even know how this one came up, but there's going to be a lot. And again, this is just from me consistently doing this a lot. There's going to be a lot of data that's just not going to be populated here. And it's not going to be populated here because not every single HVAC company, like this one, for instance, not every single HVAC company has the tags HVAC or has any tags, right? So you're missing out on tens of thousands of leads. And that kind of goes to my next point with targeting off Apollo. Now, what does that actually mean? So if I actually go and I do HVAC near me, right? Which is, there's going to be HVAC companies near me. If I go through, there's going to be tons of HVAC companies. And in order to scrape this data, right, typically you would probably use Instant Data Scraper or something like this, right? You use like, Instant Data Scraper. I wasn't supposed to do that. Let's see. You use like Instant Data Scraper, and you'd scrape all this information on the website manually, which again is a very annoying process and something that takes a long time, and you're gonna have to get a VA to do it, all this kind of stuff. What we do internally, right, in my, we have a coaching program, cold email coaching program. It's called Lead Academy, and you get access to a scraper right here. It's called a Google Maps scraper, where you can just put in a list of whatever type of industry you want to work with: HVAC, roofing, construction, any Google business, restaurants, stuff like that, and it'll give you access to that exact list. Actually, I might be able to just to show you right now how it works. There you go. So I can go here. So if this is my Discord server, how it works. You can just do /GMB. You could put in the term HVAC, the location, whatever location you want. You'll put a list of the locations with or without a website, which we'll do with a website, and you can get all of that data. So I'm not going to do it right now in this specific video, just because it'll take a long time. But what I'm kind of getting at from this is that if you pull the data from an external source, whether it's it could be from Clutch.co, which is a external database for marketing companies, IT companies, development companies, or it's from Good Firms, right? Or it's from Google My Business. Whatever it is, it's going to be very good because you're basically doing the filtering on an external platform rather than making Apollo do the filtering for you, because Apollo isn't always 100% correct. They use AI, they use a bunch of different things that aren't 100%. For a fact that, for instance, Good Firms or Clutch.co is going to be very effective and very accurate because this is like a platform where these marketing companies put themselves up as far as like they want more work, right? So if you want more work, they're going to fit you in the category of digital marketing, and it does the filtering for you, and then you could bring it to Apollo and kind of filter from there. And again, as I mentioned, how you bring them to Apollo is you go to the companies tab, go to include, and you'd put in the list as it shows you here. So that's kind of how that works. Next things you would do once you get the list, we have about 70,000 people right here. Again, you'll have 70,000 general people like sales specialist, operations manager, sales worker. These are titles that just can't make a decision, right? And for specifically selling a marketing solution, we want to target people that can make a decision and say yes or no to the marketing solution. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm gonna go to job titles, and I'm just gonna quickly go and I'm just gonna target decision makers. So I'm gonna do owner, I'm gonna do founder, I'm gonna do executive, right? I'm gonna do head, right? So head, it could literally be head of anything. I'm gonna do like business development, right? So anyone that can actually push the needle within the business. Let's see. Let me type that in correctly. I can do, CMO, just because, again, if we're targeting these types of companies or HVAC companies, and we're offering them marketing solutions, it wouldn't make sense to target the person that's, dealing with the marketing, right? Because they can bring it up to their owner, or if they're dealing with the marketing, they can just purchase your service through them. So again, I can kind of keep going through these job titles, but that's kind of what I would do. And then you can execute here. What I like to do is I like to go by management level. You'll notice that there's 1,200 people in entry here. Now, what does that mean? These are interns. These are people that cannot make a decision, right? Even though they have these titles, it could still be, even though this is executive, it could be executive assistant. It could be, an intern that has a marketing intern. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go by the level, and I'm just going to go everywhere up until I'll say director, right, for this offer. We don't want to target managers, anyone in the management level, anyone in the senior level, anyone in the entry, stuff like that, right, or intern, obviously, right. So this is not working right now, but there you go. So that's perfect. So now we got about 6,000 contacts. Now with Apollo, you'll notice that there's going to be a lot of contacts here that you just can't get access to. Apollo just cannot get access to their emails, right? Because they just haven't scraped them from the other sources, stuff like that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to press verified and unverified. And what does this mean? Now, if I click on verified, it's going to be every single lead that Apollo has access to. And unverified means that they just haven't verified the emails, which is fine. We're going to verify the emails after. As far as like, if they're valid or not, whether they're going to bounce or not, or, if they're, the person left the current job, or the person, their email just not valid anymore. They changed the email, they deleted the email. Again, you don't want to send emails to them because Outlook and Google are going to know that you're spamming. So again, we don't want Apollo to make that decision for us. We want to verify it externally. Again, so we want to click these two. Now we got, just from this small list that I made, we have about 3,300 decision maker contacts in specifically North America, with specifically 1 to 50 employees at specifically HVAC marketing or HVAC companies. Now, if I were to purchase this data, I believe if I go here, it was 10,000 current. So if I do plus 3,000 or the minimum, it'll be 10,000 plus 15 once, it's $45 a month. But again, you're going to be scraping 3,000 leads as nothing, right? For us internally, we send about like 20,000 emails per day, which is about 600,000 a month. At our current rate, we'll be spending $3,000 a month just on Apollo credits, which again, it's not a lot, right? As far as our sending volume, right? This is very expensive. So what do you do to overcome this? you're going to head over to a platform called Export Apollo. This is the third party source I was talking about. And essentially, what this is this is a third party scraper. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to go back to the section where I'm going to scrape the data. What I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the link here and I'm going to paste it right here. So this is going to be the Apollo link. And you'll notice with Apollo, they keep all the data in the query so it knows what you're trying to scrape. So if they go on an incognito tab or whatever tab you're going to go on, it'll always open up to this, right? Just like I could show you, if you go to page 50 and you copy this link and you open up in a new tab, it's going to open up right here to page 50 because it all saves in the query. Now, with that, you're going to just, name your list, test list. I could do test list and I could just do HVAC. And then I can go into kind of how many leads I want. So with this list, there's 3,232 or 33. I'm just going to go here, type that in. And what I would do is I would press scrape. Again, you have to buy scraping credits, but again, it's very, very cheap compared to like general Apollo. For scraping credits, it's $48 for 10,000 leads. It gets cheaper the more you get. We typically get this one. So it's $300 for 100,000 leads. So it's very inexpensive to actually use Export Apollo and things like that. So again, just to kind of make it very simple, when you get the list, it's going to be like this. So it's going to be like, healthcare software, 11,000 leads, yada, yada, whatever. It's just going to give you the list and it's going to look like this. So if I can just actually open up this list just to show you guys kind of how it's going to be formatted, that'd be great. So give it 1 second. Let it upload. So there you go. So this is how it looks, right? It's going to give you the first name, the last name, the full name, title, headline, seniority, email, stuff like that. Now, what I typically do, right, is I'm going to, take away all of this stuff. I just want the first name, last name, email, and the company name and the website. That's all I really want. So everything else I could just delete. I have all of this information I got from Export Apollo. Again, we built out the list. Again, this is a little bit different because this isn't HVAC, but these are all going to be like healthcare companies, right? Healthcare, something to do with healthcare. So I'll take this list, and what I'm going to do is I would come over to a software called Million Verifier. I'm going to go here, and it's going to verify the leads. I'm not going to go into the specifics on what verifying does, but it basically just takes out the bad emails. You can see here, like it takes out like all of the bad emails. Maybe there's so emails that just don't exist, emails that just they were canceled, stuff like that. You take it out, and the reason you take it out is because if you are consistently sending emails to these types of people that just don't exist anymore, which is very inhumane. Like a human wouldn't actually do that. Apollo and Google and Outlook get very frustrated with that, and they start to spam flag your accounts, right? That's kind of why we don't do that. And that is pretty much it. Again, that's kind of the full rundown on how to use Apollo. I have some other videos on verifying, on a bunch of things that goes into the actual lead list process if you do want to check those out. But again, with that being said, that's pretty much it. So I hope you found this video useful, whether you are trying to use this data internally for your company to target your prospects, or a lead generation agency and want to use this for yourself. Whatever the case may be, I hope this was useful. So again, if you did find it useful, please do leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Have a great rest of your day, guys. Thank you.